I have decided to do this video. It has been weighing very heavily on my heart. It was something that I wanted to say early on, but there was so much pressure for me to go with the popular opinion about who George Floyd was. But the more that I think about it, I realize that we are being sold a lot of lies at the detriment to the Black community. So I want to come out and say that I do not support George Floyd and the media depiction of him as a martyr for Black America. I'm going to explain why, and I hope that some of you guys will understand where I'm coming from. I recently came across something that was an idea that was planted into my head. Shelby Steele said that the Black community is unique from other communities because we are the only community that caters to the bottom denominator of our society. We are the only people that fight and demand support and justice for the people in our community that are up to no good. You would be hard pressed to find, a Jewish person who has spent 5 stints in prison that Jewish people champion and demand justice for. You will be hard pressed to find this in white America. You'll be hard pressed to find this in Latino America. George Floyd deserves justice for the way that he died, but I'm not going to accept the narrative that this is the best the Black community has to offer. For whatever reason, it has become fashionable over the last 5 or 6 years for us to turn criminals into heroes. And I am not going to play a part in it, no matter how much pressure comes from Black liberals and Black conservatives. People wanting you to believe that this is the only way you can be Black is you have to say this person was amazing. George Floyd was not an amazing person. And as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. George Floyd at the time of his arrest was high on fentanyl and methamphetamine. This came back in both of his autopsy reports. If you pursued the 911 transcript, you can see the person describing somebody who is out of their mind high, which is what made the person fearful. And then he was outside acting weird, obviously distorted and on drugs. He had drugs on him at the time of his arrest. Barring all of that, nobody thinks that he should have died during this arrest, but what I find despicable is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't, and I want to talk about what his lifestyle was and why I refuse to accept the narrative that this person should be lifted up in the Black community. Here we have, first and foremost, let's start from the bottom of his record. And by the way, I am not saying that you don't deserve a second chance, but I do draw the line when it comes to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th chances. 1998, he spent 10 months in prison for theft with a firearm. In 2002, he spent 8 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2004, he spent another 10 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2005, he spent another 10 months in prison for having less than 1 gram of cocaine on him. In 2005, a woman who was pregnant received a knock at the door. She went to the door and the person pretended to be someone that worked for the water department. The person at her door did not work for the water department. A Ford pulled up and another 5 men jumped out of the car, one of which was George Floyd. They forced their way inside to her home. Mind you, this woman is pregnant. At that point, George Floyd took out a gun and pressed it to her stomach. She was screaming, begging for her life, and he put her inside of her living room and instructed one of his criminal friends to watch her. While they ransacked her home, they ended up taking, I believe, her wallet and her cell phone. Fortunately for her, her neighbor caught the license plate as they pulled off and called 911. They were able to track down the car, of which George Floyd was the driver, and they arrested him. And 2 years later, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for that instance. The media is portraying it like he was just getting his life together and was going to start afresh, but you are defying common sense to believe that this person suddenly became an exemplary character but happened to be high on fentanyl and methamphetamine. George Floyd was a criminal. Just because he was a criminal doesn't mean he deserved to die at the knee of a police officer, but it does mean that I am not going to play a part of the broken Black culture that always wants to martyr criminals. Why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a martyr in Black America? Only are we allowing it to inspire riots in which actual upstanding Black citizens are dying. Case in point, David, the sheriff that just was shot and killed because he was trying to protect a pawn shop from looters, an upstanding citizen. He was the head of the police his entire life, 77 years old, did everything right? So we now have to kill upstanding Black citizens because a non-upstanding Black citizen, a career Black criminal, died. A martyr for a fake narrative, by the way. Now, did he deserve to die in that manner? No. But I will be damned if the rest of us upstanding Black citizens have to suffer because of this incident that rarely ever happens in America. So here are some numbers for you people that are still believing racially motivated police brutality is a real thing. First and foremost, okay, you have a 25% higher chance as a violent white criminal of dying at the hands of a police officer than you do as a Black criminal. Last year, a total of 9 unarmed black men were killed by police officers, and 19 white men were killed by police officers. You might be thinking, white people represent 60% of the population, and Black people represent just 13% of the population. It doesn't matter what percentage of the population you represent, it matters what percentage of the violent criminal community you represent. And unfortunately, Black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community. Black men, 6% of the population, account for 44% of all murders in this country. That is what you call a gap. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. We are extreme minorities. We commit 50% of all violent offenses, and we're only 13% of the population, okay? So we have a lot more encounters with police officers. And don't say the police officers are coming around because we're Black. I'm talking about murder, 44% of murders, okay? You want to talk about real statistics? The police officers have way more to be fearful of in the Black community than the other way around, okay? A police officer is 18.5 times more likely to be killed by a Black person than the other way around. So this entire narrative is complete smoke and mirrors. It's all made up. It's just election fodder. It's white versus Black because it's an election year. If you want to attack a community for, accidental slayings or brutality, did you know that doctors accidentally kill 250,000 people every year because of mistakes? There's been doctors that have been arrested for being serial killers that just were killing people because they wanted to. Do we protest and boycott doctors? Do we assume all doctors are horrible human beings because some doctors are? Society is not perfectible. People suck in every profession. It is certainly no excuse to accept a Democrat narrative, okay, that Black people are being disproportionately hunted down by police officers because of the color of their skin. You want to know the best way to avoid being brutalized by a police officer is to limit the amount of encounters you need to have with them, especially when it comes to violent crimes. I am not going to stand for this narrative of us martyring people that have had 5, 6, 7 stints in prison and then pretending they were upstanding heroes to our community. It's bullshit. It's bullshit, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of sitting here and being called a coon or an Uncle Tom because I won't play this game with you. If you want to hang up posters of criminals on your wall and talk about them as your martyrs, do it. I'll keep a photo of Kobe Bryant. You can keep one of George Floyd that just once or twice put a gun across a pregnant woman's belly. Could you imagine that woman right now? That Black woman, by the way, right? Watching everybody pretend this person was an upstanding human being who just at the age of 42 and 5 prison stints was going to get his life together. We are embarrassing in that regard. This is why we have a cycle and a toxic culture, because nobody wants to tell the truth in Black America. It's so easy to be a victim. It's so easy to ask white people to bow down and apologize and do all these things for us. It's crap. It's crap. It's a lie. It's a farce. Our biggest problem is us, okay? It's why we don't talk about it when Black on Black crime happens. It's why we don't talk about it when 40 Black people are killed during Memorial Weekend in Chicago. We don't want to talk about any of these places where Black people are being slaughtered by other Blacks, because that would mean personal responsibility. We don't do personal responsibility in our community. We don't do it. We blame white people, even though we do it at a way higher rate to ourselves. That is the call to action that I have for Black America. Why do we keep fulfilling this narrative? You ever look at the comments? Oh, just Black people being Black people. You know how they are. That's what they think about us. They think that we are the kind of people that will forever uphold criminals as the martyrs of our society, that we will never take account for the things that we do wrong, that we don't have it within us to educate ourselves to get ahead, and that for those of us that actually do it, well, we get called coons, right? You got Condoleezza Rice, she's a coon. Larry Elder, he's a coon. Dr. Ben Carson, brain surgeon, first ever to perform the surgery of splitting twins that are connected by the head. He's a coon, right? What a stupid guy he is. Kanye West says he's not going to be told to do it because of the color of his skin. He's a coon. He's lost. He's in the sunken place. The sunken place. That's where we all are, right? Black conservatives get ahead because we don't subscribe to this narrative. Because you're not going to catch me outside trying to grab a TV pretending that it's because George Floyd got killed. I'm a big believer that no matter what color you are, you do stupid things, you win stupid prizes. We have to do better. We have to teach our kids better, or we're not going to get ahead, right? Anyways, I have no apologies here to make. George Floyd is not my martyr. He can be yours. That's all I have to say.